My name is Tim Sovde. We are at the River City Cafe in Fairbanks, and this is this week around town. Why this matter is of such concern is all along we've been told that if we participate, there is a public process and venue for our concerns and our input, and that our input and concerns mattered to the borough administration.
How did Jeannie Olson get involved in this in the first place?
She was a citizen volunteer in the Brock Road development, the first Brock Road master plan in 2001. So you had a group of citizens took their time and effort because they were told that you should get involved and you should, this is part of the public process to make our community a better place. And their recommendations not only weren't followed, but there are two places in Borough Code where the administration and the mayor's office simply ignored it.
What's the Brock Road development for?
Well, it was called the Brock Road development initially for what's now the Elbasan Acres. They renamed it, which was another way they ended up basically losing, the public lost any identity to the plot of ground that was actually being discussed.
What is Elbasan Acres?
The name came from one of the ladies in the land management department.
What's in the master plan for Elbasan Acres?
The Brock Road group, who did the master plan in 2001, recommended rezoning the residential portions of the property to RE2 and RE4, which means that they would have had a much lesser population density than any of the other subdivisions around them.
What do they want to build? What are they going to do with the land?
They are going to develop it as a commercial enterprise to sell residential lots while taking into account setting aside land for possible future school sites.
What's the problem with that?
The problem is they are going to add, if the entire section is developed, over 200 more residences. The roads in the area are narrow. As also was presented in the testimony, there is some marginal ground in the development, which we were assured that they would take a look at some later date. But if it's not in black and white, and if it isn't voted on, it doesn't exist.
Are there any other reasons why the property shouldn't be developed besides the roads?
I think the population density is one of the concerns simply because of the nature of the ground we're talking about. There is permafrost ground in there, which means that there will be limited spaces for septic systems. And when you have a limited place for septic systems, that means you have to be very careful in your placement of wells. So basically, the Planning Commission is not as constrained and isn't constrained by Title 17 things, technicals. We are allowed to look at public health and safety concerning rezones.
Was this
as a general rule?
The property, I had heard that it was a military dumping ground of some sort. Can you verify that?
There is a bunker there. It was turned over from the military. That is another issue that came up in the appeal that should probably be addressed before any development goes on, because you have absolutely no idea what the military did on that ground and what they may have buried. You simply don't. And in testimony, we found out that the military was totally unaware of the site. They actually lose sites all the time, record keeping or whatnot, especially from World War II. So, yes, that is a concern. There was inadequate public notice provided by the borough throughout the planning process. Okay, the mantra of the land management in defense of its appeal by Jeannie Olson was that none of the concerns which the appellant raised were a Title 17 issue. This was further supported by a memo from Renee Broker, the borough attorney, saying that the Planning Commission, acting on an appeal from the Planning Board, cannot deny a subdivision request when all the statutory requirements and technical requirements of Title 17 have been met. So basically, we were instructed that if it was not addressed in Title 17, it was not a grounds for upholding the appeal by the appellant, Jeannie Olson. So I went through and basically on each one of the concerns that the appellant raised, their mantra, plain and simple, was it is not a Title 17 issue. Finally, we get to one of the last items here, and it's interesting that the borough basically responds that although the appellant raised several points which are of concern to her and others, many are borough-wide problems which will have to be addressed through other public processes under other supervision of borough code. Well, we then get to the supposed finding of facts of the appeal. Her appeal was turned down. I believe the vote was 5-2. I voted against the appeal for the simple fact that it did not appeal on any of the grounds of Title 17, and if you use the general purpose statements to guide you, which was part of the appeal, which stated public health, safety, and general welfare, then you would use that as a means to impede and hinder people, other citizens' private property rights. And you have to take note that we were also directed that land management had to be treated and borough property had to be treated as private property. So do not ever get it in your head when they keep claiming private property that you, as a citizen, necessarily own it. The land management department owns any land that they are entitled to. Parks and Recs owns any properties and facilities they are entitled to. So that is entitled to them. So we get to the resolution. So the resolution that is supposedly turning down the appeal of Ms. Olson does not address the issues which the appeal was made on, or confirms the position of the land management. Whereas I had and spent some time on a finding of facts. I had 4 findings of fact and 3 recommendations after the appeal process. One of them was finding that Ms. Olson was correct that the public process was certainly called into question. Input from the broad working group, including the approved master plan, was not considered. I then pointed out that the Brock Road master plan was not updated as required by municipal code, and I gave the quotations for the code. My third finding of fact was the managing authority of the Fairbanks Land Management Department did not follow procedure as outlined in municipal code, which states that they are supposed to start working from the management plans. And what I mean by the management plans is each one of these larger borough plots of ground have a master plan, they did not use it as a starting point of their development. And this came out in testimony. The fourth finding of fact is there was an inadequate and misleading public notice provided by the borough to the public throughout the planning process of the development. This is in direct relationship to the changing of the parcel of land to be developed from Brock Road development to the Espinel or whatever acres. And then finally, I was the only one to put forward the real reason that the appeal was denied, which was the plat meets the minimal requirements of Title 17. Nowhere in the resolution do you actually have the only finding that is relevant to the entire appeal. With basically 5 hours of testimony, I had 3 recommendations that for the Assembly and the Office of the Borough Mayor to address, and those were: the Assembly should deny Fairbanks North Star Borough Land Management Department monies to start Phase 1 of the Elbasan Acres. The Assembly and the Mayor's Office should review and take action to remedy the problems identified in the findings of fact of 1 through 4, and that the land management should not pursue a rezone of Elbasan Acres from GU1 to rural residential until the Mayor's Office and the Assembly have addressed recommendations 2 of these documents. The Planning Commission, it was not their finest hour. They did not rise up. They did not take the extra step to ensure the public process or to make sure that the public process in the future would remedy itself of its errors, even though the borough itself admitted, although the appellant raised several points which are concern to her and others, many are borough-wide problems which will have to be addressed through other public processes and other provisions of the code.